Oh, hello, my name is Margaret Stover, and I've never done this before, but I feel it's important. Um, I was a Jehovah's Witness for 40 years, and I really feel for the rank and file witness. I was just a rank and file witness. Those are the people who sincerely loved Jehovah and Jesus and lived their lives trying to do their best. Most of us were in the world before we became witnesses. We were just stragglers. We didn't belong to any mainstream religion. In fact, we were sort of frightened of those churches because they were for the fancy people, you know? And so we didn't really feel we belonged, or maybe we had some type of disability, so we didn't feel we belonged. But the witnesses came along, and even though we might have been frightened, um, over years of studying with us, they gained our confidence. Um, they taught us things we didn't know, and we didn't have the benefit of the internet to really research. And we were busy raising our families back then, too. And some of us were busy resettling in other places other than our home country. So now, I mean, the rank and file, if they have access to an internet and learn what has really taken place, they're usually quite heartbroken and they feel very let down, and it can actually destroy your faith that there's any God who really loves you, because you really love Jehovah. You don't go house to house or study with somebody for 5 years and you're with them more than you would be with your family relatives every week, studying with them for 5 years. You can't tell me that that isn't love for your God and love for Jesus. So the rank and file also tend to be fearful people. You know, if they were afraid to go to mainline stream churches, that shows that they might have felt inferior to these other people who are more educated, etc., and more suave and sophisticated, etc., and well dressed, etc. On and on it goes. So, but they still love God, and they might have been searching. You know, if there's a preacher on TV, oh, they'd be listening, and they would be searching all the time. So when somebody comes to your house and offers you free, that they will show you, of course, and you're not overly educated yourself. So you're not coming from a place of knowledge. So I have, you know, maybe just feeling sorry for myself also, but I feel for the rank and file. And I feel for the rank and file who are still in that organization, because they must be very, very fearful. In my own family, I think I probably was the most fearful. But my daughters became witnesses, but they left. And my youngest, Evie, she went to an assembly and somebody's being shunned at this assembly. And so Evie just went and sat and ate with them because she followed her own conscience, and she wasn't worried about the consequences because she was following Jesus. And she had no fear of the governing body or of being ostracized or shunned. She had no fear. She just did what her conscience dictated, what her heart dictated. So those people come out, the ones that have enough strength not to be afraid of cliques, not to be afraid of governing bodies, not to be afraid of elders. They're just humans. They come out, but there's those that they're so terrified. So I feel for them too, because of their fear. So I think we have to have humanity in all of this. I know in Detroit, Michigan, some witnesses committed suicide, and I felt very sad because coming out of that organization, if you have no outlet, I was fortunate because I had the internet, even though I was pretty lousy at using it. And I just was on a date site where people discussed religion. So that was my outlet. I had some place to compare and think and write down what I felt. And that kind of saved me from a worse nervous condition than I sometimes have just genetically. So I just hope that the public will feel a softness for the rank and file. I was listening last night to an elder on the internet here who said he cried for days when he left the witnesses. And I'll tell you, it is pretty rough. And I thought to myself, brother, if you were crying, you're not alone because these people really love their God. And to find out he's deserted them is, and perhaps he hasn't. I thought to myself, I don't know because if he's worried about his name, it's being dragged through the mud now, day after day and year after year. So if he is our Heavenly Father and he is kind and his son is really Jesus Christ, he'll sort things out, I'm sure. But in the meantime, I think we've got to have humanity for witnesses because many of them, honestly, they really believe this stuff or they wouldn't be doing it. You wouldn't be doing that for 40 years if you didn't believe it. They're not a bad people. And and maybe Jehovah God will come through. And I hope so. It would make me very happy to know he is truly God and he will sort things out. And people like my daughter, Evie, who realized, well, I'm following Jesus, not a man, not any men. And when they're arrogant and they think that they replace God, they don't. So that's all I got to say. I just feel so bad for the rank and file because I think they meant no harm to anyone. I never brought anyone into the truth, and now I can say, well, thank God I couldn't. Thank God. Thank you that did, because I wouldn't want to bring anyone into something that was harmful to them or their family. So I'm hoping that the public will realize this. There's many witnesses in there now because of fear. Many of them are so afraid to access the internet or anybody else's material. This elder that was on last night on the internet, he didn't for years. I was different. I wasn't afraid because I thought, well, the truth will stand up to anything. So I will, you know, I'll take in all kinds of information. I'll sort through it. I wasn't afraid of that. But I feel that if you love your God, I mean, then you can really get upset with him and tell him exactly. I did. For a couple years, I was a nervous wreck, and I was telling him, oh, you know. So, I mean, if you love your God, he's a loving father. You go to him, maybe you yell and scream at him. It's like even with a mother. A child will come to that mother and yell and scream and go on and on and on because that mother is security. And the mother's not going to reject him because they're yelling and screaming. They know their child's in some type of pain and trouble. So I figure it's the same thing with Jehovah. And if he isn't God, and uh, there's a man called Mark Pezio, he does a video called Cosmic Abandonment, and I've watched it. I think I've watched it more than once, and I'm undecided. I'm undecided about that. So I think right now the question is, who is Jehovah? Is he the God we thought he was? And I think that the rank and file will search until they die to find him. If there is a God, they'll try to find him. You don't spend 40 years wanting to love a God and then find out he's abandoned you. So I'm prayerful that he hasn't. And I hope what I've said has helped you realize that witnesses, most witnesses didn't become a witness for any other purpose than they believe they love God and they love Jesus. And they wanted to please God really bad. They wanted a better world for everybody. So this is my first, and it may be my last time of trying to speak to you. I never thought I would do this, but I have. So um, if you can comment, let me know what you think, because we all just want a better world. We want humanity to be let freedom for all humanity, to not have governments enslaving us or organizations enslaving us. And Jesus, I think, promised that freedom. So that's why, as a rank and file witness, I'm here. I have no fear of Jesus at all. And Jehovah, I want to know who he is and why he allowed what he allowed in his organization, because I was in his organization, because I knew mainstream. I knew what they were like. I knew that you might as well be in a corporation. You might as well be in a social society. It has nothing to do with Jesus or the things he taught in the end. And I didn't want that. And these people were teaching me for free. And after years of it, I thought they must be the real thing. So please have mercy on us, and may we have mercy on Jehovah, because we don't know. We don't know for sure. Who is Jehovah? If you listen to Cosmic Abandonment by Mark Passio, it would appear that he's just of a group of extraterrestrials, and he's Inlel. But I haven't decided. So thank you for listening, and I hope this has made sense. And I just would like everyone to be free and everyone to know their own worth, and just want a better world. So thank you. Good night. And let me know what you think. Is Jehovah God? And if he is God, why did he allow what he allowed in his organization? I expected it in all the others, but not his, because his name was on it. So thank you and good night. Thanks.